I think the mentorship program is important to avoid teacher burnout within the first 5 years. They say it's the highest percentage in for why teachers leave the profession. And I think if they don't have support and they don't feel like they're being supported by not only our admin but also other teachers, then we're going to lose them. And we can't afford to lose teachers, especially here in a French immersion setting.
That was Colin Talbot, a teacher in Portage La Prairie, Manitoba, talking about mentorship.
I just want to stress how much I appreciate the opportunities that being in this leadership role has given me and how much opportunity there is for growth. And without that shoulder tap and without kind of being pushed out of my comfort zone, that wouldn't have happened.
And that was Marissa Gertridge, another teacher in the mentorship program in Portage La Prairie.
I think we're a team, and I think schools can only function when they have a team together. So I appreciate you bringing our team together. These two, Colin and Marissa, help me make decisions and influence me, and I listen to them and I care deeply about them. I think for me, school leadership, what excites me about it is that I can create change, and I can really shift practice, and I can really influence. And I love that part of my job.
And that was Colin and Marissa's mentor, Tracy Van Stone, principal of Ecole Arthur Meighan in Portage La Prairie, Manitoba. I'm Stan Baker, one of the hosts of Circle Forum, along with Shelley Steele and Steve Young. We had such a great conversation with Tracy Van Stone about mentorship earlier this year that we had her back as a guest along with two teachers that she's mentoring.
This podcast is brought to you by the word mentor, a word which comes from Greek mythology, as Mentor was the friend of Odysseus who was given charge of educating and caring for Odysseus's son while Odysseus was away. Schools can reduce staff turnover costs through mentorships, which retain teachers and ensures succession of school leadership. Mentored teachers benefit from the ongoing support and development, which translates into benefiting student learning outcomes.
At the end of this episode, be sure to visit our website, www.restorative.ca, where you can find some great ideas about leadership in schools from a restorative and relational perspective. If you enjoy this episode, make sure you subscribe. Shelley's away, so let's head over to this discussion with Steve and me, Stan. What prompted you to accept the invitation to be mentored?
I know when I first got shoulder tapped, it was definitely not something I was considering, and I was quite surprised. So I think my initial acceptance was because I really like to learn and move forward in my life and my career. So it was an opportunity that, although surprising, was an area that I could grow in.
Tracy and I have always had a very good relationship. I think just having a chance to talk to her and go into different opportunities in education. She encouraged me to pursue my after degree, and we have always talked about my assignments that are going on for my master's and always had professional conversations surrounding topics that are covered. So that open door policy has been awesome.
And Tracy, what did you see in both of these teachers that made you tap them on the shoulder?
I think their human spirit of their ability to connect with people. I think both of them are master teachers. So that's critical when you can connect with kids. I also see them really connect with colleagues, being a team player. Marissa's an organizer. Definitely, I think her strength is organizing and being on top of things. She notices things that I don't notice, and I appreciate that. She's someone that checks in on me. What I appreciate about Colin is he's genuine. He has a really awesome ability to talk to parents, and that's not an easy task. So he can really connect well with parents, and he wants more. He wants to learn timetabling. He wants to learn budgeting. He's keen to learn. So his drive is there. So I think the different skill sets, their number one asset to me is their ability to connect with people.
From the perspective of someone being mentored, what did you need and how has it been being mentored?
I think what is best in the mentorship program is just having that time to experience different parts of the job. And Tracy's really good at giving us lots of opportunities to practice in different ways. So, like she was talking about budgeting and timetabling, those are things that she provided us with that opportunity to learn those things, as well as when they step out and they ask us to step in as admin designate that day, we run it from the start to the end. So just really getting that time to practice before ever being in that full-time role has been essential. I've learned to appreciate a lot of the different parts of that we've had the experience with, and open my eyes to the position because I wasn't initially interested.
Yeah, just to echo on what Marissa said, the professional learning opportunities that Tracy has allowed us to have is really crucial for myself and Marissa in case we do end up being a vice principal or a principal within 5 years. Just having that awareness of the day-to-day activities that Tracy does. She also has a mentorship program that she offers for new teachers. And we have been mentees for that, Marissa and I. And that has allowed us to reflect on our practices and our evaluations as well to help the new teachers that are coming in.
What fills your bucket here? What gives you the energy? What gives you the inspiration, if you will, to be part of something like this in this particular school at this particular time with these mentors and people being mentored?
I think it comes back to the kids. I think the reason why we do this is for the students. And there's not one day that's the same. There's always a new challenge, but also a new success. And that's what Tracy said at the start. It's important to celebrate those successes. When you come back from work and you talk to your spouse or your partner about your day, and it's always negative, but when you start talking about the positive, then you remember why you decide to do this and you want to do this.
I agree. It's the kids that fill my bucket, and being able to provide them with different opportunities. I'm in the counseling role, so it looks a little bit different. But I think by knowing more how the whole school works and what the vision is for the school, it helps me to drive my practices through my counseling and how to support kids in the different levels. So that bigger picture of the understanding helps me to get that, and the kids definitely fill my bucket.
For me, I would say what fills my bucket is when I know I'm not on an island all by myself. And so to have colleagues that want to help out and share the leadership responsibility, that's just, it's just a great feeling for me. And I know I've come to learn. It wasn't initially what I knew of leadership, but I've come to learn with leadership is that if we're all pitching in, our school will be better, will be stronger. And it's not just the principal's ideas that should run this show. It's all of our ideas. And I'm just happier when I'm working with a team, and it fills my bucket.
And it's usually, as you say, it's about the kids. There was a quote that I saw somewhere. Somebody said that the adults tire me, the kids invigorate me. And when you're having that day, and Stan and I have said this many times, just go down to the kindergarten room for half an hour and have some fun, or go out in the schoolyard and play with some kids. That's what re-energizes you and makes you think that's the reason we're all here, is to try and make sure these kids get through it all. But it's not about the accolades, but every once in a while you like to hear from somebody, the right person, that you're doing a good job. And that's usually the parents, believe it or not. That's what I always appreciate the most from.
I had a 1-year-old and I went into leadership. And I had a 1-year-old and I had a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old. And my husband was farming and I needed help. It was really hard to achieve that work-life balance. And so I got a nanny actually to help me, someone who really could help me. And what I needed was help with dishes and helping make supper and helping bathe kids. That was the help I needed. And I know not everybody can do that, but we just made that sacrifice. We probably couldn't afford to do that at the moment, but that was what was going to get us through. So we committed to just trying to make that happen. And then leaning on my family to help me, asking for help, not being afraid. And then sometimes I remember being really young and in the thick of it, my parents were still working and they were getting annoyed of me asking for help. And then I was feeling guilty, but I think you can't feel guilty to ask for help. And then you have to balance that with how much are you willing to give to your work and how much do you need to save in the tank for your family? And that's a real hard thing. And I'm getting a lot better at it. And I think initially when you get into leadership, you feel like you've got to be the be all end all and everywhere for everyone. And I have learned that, you know what, I need a break too. We all need to stop and take a pause and go home in a reasonable time. But the duties are more than a teacher, right? And tonight I'm staying for the band concert and I'll be here until 8:39. And tomorrow we're having a school dance and I'll be here till 9. But the next day on Friday, I'm leaving right at 4 o'clock because I'm going to be tired. And I'm not going to feel guilty or bad about that. I think it comes with time and experience and a sense of security in who you are. And I think if you give it your all during the day as best you can feel good about that and not feel like you have to stay here for hours.
Other thoughts on work-life balance?
I know for myself, it's definitely been a challenge as like when I very first started teaching, like that's all I did was I went home and I worked on lesson plans, and then I'd go to bed late and I'd get up early and I'd show up early and I'd work until late. I feel like once I became a mom, I had to set some pretty big boundaries because they take up a lot of time and I wanted to dedicate time to both my family and my job. So that becoming a mother really pushed me to find better balance in my life. So just setting up boundaries and learning to let certain things go in both places. There's certain things I let go at home and there's certain things I let go at work. I prioritize and do the best I can with the time I have and take breaks when I need them because I know that's what's best for myself and for all the people that I'm serving.
I think it's just to be honest with your leaders. I know last year we had a meeting with Tracy and Natalie. It was just a meeting before we started our school year. And I was honest with them by saying, I need to pick up my kids at 4 o'clock every day from daycare. So right away, you're being honest with them. And then when it comes to extracurricular, I love coaching all sports. And that's where you need to talk to your partner or your spouse by just saying, listen, I'm really passionate about coaching. This is what I want to do. Can we make this work? Because your family, your wife, your husband also plays a big role in your career as well. If you're both career driven, you have to have a plan in place. And that the only way you do that is by communicating.
A friend of mine always talked about let the boundaries fall in pleasant places. A boundary could be, I'm not doing any more coaching. That's a boundary. However, a boundary in a pleasant place is I'm thinking about what coaching I can actually even handle, and I'm going to have to drop something. What do you think, Tracy? Do you hear the difference? One is a much more pleasant boundary, and it involves conversations with spouses. It involves conversations with leaders, with colleagues, because otherwise people say, look, this guy's leaving 4 o'clock every day. What's with that?
The idea of saying no, and it's always the hardest word to say no. And when you're a busy person and people see you as a leader, they're going to start asking you to do more. That's just natural. Hey, you're good at this. Can you help out? You have to be able to say no, but then explain the no. Don't just say no and walk away. Explain why. No, I can't do that. And you don't have to say, I'm doing all these and list all the million things you are doing. But over time, people realize that you have a very much an approach to how you want to balance things. Is it a story to tell or something you can reflect on and share with us of something that you learned just by doing that role? You're in charge of the school for a day or a half a day or whatever the period of time, and something happened. You thought, I've learned a good lesson by that.
I think it's to slow down. I know in my first couple years as admin designate, it was almost a bit of panic in that sense of what would they do? What should I do? What needs to be referred on? What should I deal with in-house right now? So I guess that sense of not knowing what to do in the beginning, whereas now there's still lots, but taking a deep breath and just going like one thing at a time and slowing down so that I can cover all my bases and get through the day.
Yeah, slowing down is definitely something. Not making rational decisions either. I think one thing I definitely learned last year from our former principals was the pros and cons to every decision you make. So when it comes to disciplining a student, if I take this route, what's going to happen? If I take this route, what's going to happen? And really reflect on that before you make your decision. Mm-hmm. And also using your resources at your disposal. Last year, I had to call the RCMP because of a student had drugs at school. Another one was sending inappropriate pictures to someone in Kansas. So just understanding the policy and the law as well.
When you designate somebody to be the administrative designate, what do you expect from that person? And can you give some examples of things that happened that you thought, I really appreciate the way the person handled that?
Mm-hmm. Our division expects that I sit and go through some procedures with them initially. First, I want to know that they want to do it. A conversation and see if they would like to do it. I would never force anyone to do that. What I would expect from them is I don't expect them to carry out all the tasks of a school leader, obviously, but I want them to hold down the fort. And I want them to know that I trust that they can do it. And so that comes with practice. I know Marissa probably, the first time you did it, you probably felt overwhelmed. And I think I remember one of those days where you came in and you had a list in my office of the 87 conversations that you had during the day. And then you learn to just say, you know what? The school principal will deal with that then tomorrow. So you learn what you have to, it's like a triage in an emergency room. That's how I describe it to our current vice principal. You've got to decide how much time you give things. And so my hope is that they are able to hold down the fort. The best way to hold down the fort is being visible, presence wherever possible, in classrooms, in hallways, at key transition times, and then interact with parents. Listen to people. I think if a staff's crying, you sit and you talk to them. If you have an angry parent, you sit and you listen to them. You've got a real complex situation, you take lots of good notes for me, and then you bring it back to me and we talk through it. So I think any complex situations, I don't expect that they handle or deal with it. They should phone me or seek feedback from maybe senior leaders or other colleagues.
When I'm acting admin, Tracy said be visible, go into classrooms. Because I'm a classroom teacher, I don't have the opportunity to go visit other teachers in their classrooms very much. When I'm acting admin, I love going to the grade 1s, grade 2s, grade 3s, and just seeing what's going on in that room and just talking to the teacher, asking questions, because you're building that relationship with them and then other students as well that you normally don't see on a day-to-day basis.
I love that idea. And it's a twofer, right? You're being visible and you're getting to know and connect with other kids and other staff members.
And I think that's the very point I want to stress that I continue to want to improve upon as a mentor leader, is that I would like to then take Marissa and Colin into rooms with me simultaneously at the same time to talk about what does walkthrough training look like? When I'm walking into a classroom, what am I looking for? And how to have some of those crucial conversations or model it. It's a little slippery of a slope because of that whole supervisor role. And then you've got your colleagues, and you're not probably going to see me discipline a colleague in front of you. But I think the walkthrough of assessment or feedback would be something I want to keep improving on, is show them and model that for them.
How can you, in your positions, address the idea of recruitment of teachers?
My personal thoughts are to use our people like Colin and Marissa, bring them to recruitment fairs with me and have them talk about their experiences rather than the principal doing it. So that's my intention moving forward, is to bring the right people to sell the school.
I think it's important too, just to talk about being visible. I know Tracy's very visible in our community. She goes to a lot of hockey games, a lot of tournaments. They know who the principal is. They know that she's a leader of our school, and she's constantly talking to people, asking if they know anybody who's interested in the education. She told me a story about with the Terriers, our Portage Terrier local junior team here. She'll ask the coach if anybody speaks French on the team to come and be an EA at our school. Now, you don't get that if you don't get out of your house or leave your little community. You get those answers by being visible.
I think another part too is once we can get them here, if we can get them here, is the school culture we have is very rich and welcoming and supportive through the mentorship program. So even if someone comes on term, I feel like that's our best opportunity to show them what our school is all about and how they can find success there.
The critical piece of mentorship that I think we continue to need to work on, I think all mentorship programs, when they're informal, they don't work. They need to be formal. They need to be explicit. The frequency of visits, talking about the need to ask for help, and that is important. I think you've got to really set the tone as a school leader of what it means to mentor, because otherwise I check in once a year. That's not going to cut it.
In as much as mentorship program helps to develop gifts and talents that you have, maybe everybody should be in a mentorship program. What do you think? Really, the fact that both of you can develop some of your interests, some of your abilities, and that there's space for that is going to keep you there as well, right? In the community.
I think so. Even for me, this is, I think, my 16th year in school leadership, but now I'm looking for more. That's why I do a lot of work with the Council of School Leaders and Manitoba Teachers Society and with the government, because I want to be challenged. I want people to show me other avenues to do things and to learn. I think I really want to just continue learning. So I think we all can use mentors, and we often forget that school leaders need mentors. Manitoba is paying attention to the fact that they need supports for school leaders. I can be part of change and big change, and I've been part of really big change, changing schools and changing how we do things and changing culture has been unbelievable. That's what I love about the profession, and I know I can't do it alone. I think for me, my last word is team. Go team.
Go team.
To Marissa's point, go slowly, take your time, you'll learn. The school will be open the next day and the kids are going to come back and you're going to have another chance. I appreciate the conversation and thanks very much.
You know, we started talking about mentorship and we soon moved on to developing gifts and interests, to the connection to teacher recruitment and retention. Everyone, principals and teachers, needs a mentor for support, for encouragement, and for the development of their leadership skills. It was great to hear from Tracy as a mentor, and especially from Marissa and Colin as the teachers being mentored. For more about our work with restorative practices and relational leadership, check out www.restorative.ca. You can send me an email to stan@restorative.ca. Now, you know the song Lean on Me? Well, we all need somebody to lean on, and actually, we all need someone to mentor.